This video is going to show you how to make a print using styrofoam. This is a piece of styrofoam that you would be using to carve in your design with a pencil. And you want to make sure that you are using a pencil that is fairly blunt so that it doesn't cut through all the way through the piece of styrofoam when you're using it. And so you first might want to draw out your design onto a piece of paper, and then that way you might be able to trace it onto your styrofoam. Sometimes when you're tracing it, it is hard to go through the paper and onto the styrofoam, and it can cut through the paper. So you might be better off drawing it onto your styrofoam to start with. Here is my piece of styrofoam with my design on it that I have drawn into with my pencil to create kind of that deep groove into my styrofoam plate. So I'm just going to finish a couple more circles here on the edge and going in with my pencil. Sometimes you can start kind of light and then kind of make it deeper as you go so that you know exactly where you want your lines to be. And then that way you know that you'll have a nice clean print with some deep lines. So now you're going to want a scrap piece of paper to put your plate on so that we can ink on top of that. And then we have our tray that has what we're going to use to put our ink onto. So this is our block printing ink, and when we use this we don't need a ton of it. So I'm going to use my palette knife here and just get a little blob to start with, and then I can always add more if I need to. This is what we call a brayer, and this is what we use to apply the ink to our plate. And so I'm just going to kind of roll the ink around to kind of get it all the way. I want it evenly spaced onto my brayer. And you'll hear kind of that sticky sounding noise. And you want to hear that noise because that means that you don't have too much ink on your brush or on your brayer or too little. So now I think I might need just a tiny bit more. Take just a little bit more ink and kind of go around evenly again. Okay, and then I can take my plate with my brayer and I can roll over my styrofoam all the way across so I get it nice and evenly spaced. Okay, and then I can put my brayer back in my tray so I don't get the ink on the table, and you can also lay it down this way so that the brayer doesn't sit on the plate. And then I can take my final piece of paper and I can very carefully, trying not to touch the ink with my fingers, take my plate and flip it over, put it on the piece of paper, and then you're going to use your fingers to press down in the areas. You could also take a clean brayer and use this to help you get some pressure. You don't want to move the plate around a lot, so you want to kind of hold it down and make sure it's not moving too much. And while you're doing this, you can kind of peek. Looks like I needed a little bit more ink to start with. But that way you can see maybe where you need to put just a little bit more pressure on your print. And then I can peel this off. And then I have my print. Now you can see, this is my first one that I did, so I can see inconsistencies in my ink. I needed a lot more ink on my plate to begin with. And then there must have been more ink in the middle here, so I needed to be more even with my ink. So that it looks like more of an even print. There's a tiny bit of a double line if you look closely up here where my plate must have moved a little bit when I was rolling it with the brayer. So that's something that I want to keep in mind for the next print too. And then you can also use this to see, are my lines showing up really clear? Are they nice and even? Do I need to go back, clean this, and then take my pencil and go over some of my lines one more time? Or am I ready to ink it again and print again? When you're done working at this with the printing, then you're going to want to make sure that you clean out your brayer and the tray with water when you are done using these materials.